Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jim Muehlhausen, and we are here for session 3 of Sales Virtualization entitled Enhanced Lead Generation. We're going to get to the good stuff here today, and if you thought you drank from a fire hose last time, I got some bad news for you. It's probably going to be worse this time. There is a ton of information in this one, so strap in and get ready. All right, here are the principles that we're going to talk about today. The first is, in order to sell more and in order to have our sales virtualization system work effectively, we're going to need more leads. I personally believe, and from what I see with clients and business owners that I talk to, they don't have a particularly difficult time closing leads once they're into their funnel. What they need is more leads, and that's what we're going to focus on, is how do we generate more leads, and that starts with the raw leads. So there's several things that we're going to need to do if we're going to double or triple our lead flow, which is the goal. We're going to have to try new things. We're going to have to get rid of old methodologies that aren't working as well as they used to. We're going to have to face the new reality that there's a lot more lead sources today than there used to be in the good old days. And we're going to have to be willing to fail. That we're going to have to try this stuff. I call it cheap, fast failure with upside. That we're going to have to try some things inexpensively that have upside and less downside than upside, and then we're going to have to adjust when they don't work. And I'll just throw this in. Business owners hate writing, and I'm going to say a whole bunch of things that it basically involves writing. So that's my little joke to you. I hope you enjoy writing, because a lot of these things involve writing. All right, so before we begin, I have an analogy. I was trying to figure out how to get my point across with this, and what I decided was the best way to do it was, if you think about leads, it's much like we sit at the end of the river, at the mouth of the river down in New Orleans, and say, hey, water, come on in and fill up my bucket. And by the way, I need lots of water. And at the mouth of the river, that is where the highly qualified lead turns into a customer. However, there's an awful lot of tributaries that feed the river, and we need to be worried about the tributaries. And our lead flow is very much like a river, that the best leads turn into sales at the mouth, but without all the tributaries, there wouldn't be very much water at the mouth of the river. So here's my little picture for you. I don't know if anybody has been to the start of the Mississippi River, but this is a picture of the start of the Mississippi River at Lake Itasca in Minnesota. Now, if you can see the picture, you can see some rocks there. The big part is the lake. That little thing that looks like a stream that you could walk across is actually the beginning of the Mississippi River, meaning if there were no tributaries that fed into this little stream, the Mississippi River would be just that, a little stream. This is the Mississippi River in New Orleans with that giant little blip down at the bottom. That's that red barge that you can barely see, where the river is a couple of miles wide, started from that little itty-bitty stream. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of tributaries, different sources of water, or in our case, different sources of leads, that feed into the one primary waterway, the Mississippi. So I did a little research for you. I'm a geography buff, I admit it. There are actually 15 tributaries, major tributaries, that feed into the Mississippi River. I'll spare you the details, but you know the big ones like the Missouri and the Ohio River. So then I went one step further. I actually could not find anyone that had the answer of saying how many total rivers and tributaries fed into the Mississippi. So I did a little research. So I went and I found the tributaries to the Ohio River. Turns out there are 58 lakes, rivers, creeks, you name it, that feed into the Ohio River alone. So if you're running the math on that, there's 15 sources for the Mississippi River, and there's 58 sources for the Ohio. So if we just say, okay, let's use that as an example, that means there's 870 sources of water that are feeding in to get all that water, or in our case, all those leads, into the Mississippi River. What does this mean? What's my point? Well, the point is that all water is good water, all leads are good leads, and all sources of leads are important. The college roommate of your secretary, who now is the assistant to the general counsel at that big company that now turns into a lead, that's one of those little itty-bitty tributaries there. It's not repeatable, but that is in fact a lead source. And so all of these lead sources add up to getting our leads tripled. It's not going to happen by just throttling what we have a lot harder. It's going to take all of these things working. It's not a magic wand. It's not going to be one source. It's going to be a whole bunch of sources that make it. So here's the new reality. I was trying to think of an analogy, and so I'll admit to running home to mama on this one. I went back to my old business, the auto repair business. I used to own a bunch of auto repair stores, muffler shops to be exact. And so I think back to the 90s when I was in that business. And where did our leads come from? Primarily, they came from the phone ring. Well, what made the phone ring? There really was only a couple of ways that you got leads. You got them from the Yellow Pages. We had a big $9,000 a month Yellow Pages ad. Your location, you had to be on a busy street. They tended to cluster together. Notice when you find one auto repair shop, you tend to find a lot of them. They're all in the same part of town. And then from referrals, people that liked your work or come back and are repeat customers. So there was basically 3, 4, 5 lead sources. Today, that same tire store is stuck chasing the exact same amount of customers in 30 different ways instead of 3 different ways. Sure, they're got to be in the Yellow Pages still, maybe with a smaller ad, but there's also lots of different flavors of Yellow Pages. Oh, and don't forget the online versions. Now there's 5, 6, 7 versions of online Yellow Pages, plus Google Places. There's lead aggregators, which this would scare the daylights out of me. I found one called AutoMD, WebMD, AutoMD, where you can type in your car, type in what's wrong, and it will tell you approximately what it should cost to fix your car. So much from that, walking in and the auto place ripping you off, there's no way to overcharge anymore because there's all these aggregators, and those aggregators have ads that come on the side. So if the tire store wants to fix your alternator, they have to pay AutoMD to have their ad displayed on there because here's someone that's a real prospect looking to get it fixed and want to know how much it is. But there's 10 or 20 of those that they would need to advertise. They have to do SEO, pay-per-click like we do. But don't forget to times Google and Yahoo and Bing and Ask.com and Mama.com and all the different search engines that are out there. Oh, yeah, and don't forget Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. And they have to have all the traditional things like referral and location. The point is, same number of customers, 30 different ways to get them, not 3. And that is our new reality as well, that we have to have a lot of different marketing sources to get the same or more leads at the top of the funnel. And so what we're trying to do here is get that larger top of the funnel. And so let's get into how we're going to do it. Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to de-emphasize the methods that aren't working as well as they used to. And that is very tricky. It's much easier when a method is getting better than a method is getting worse. But typically, the methods that are not working as well as they used to are the older ones, the tried and true ones from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Things like direct mail continue to work worse. Anything that is junky, junk email, junk mail, and what junk means is no permission. If they don't want what you have, and I don't mean they should want. Oh, well, people that have 20-year-old houses need new windows, so they should want our coupon. No, that's junk mail. If they did not ask for it, it's junk. That's the new standard, permission-based marketing. Any traditional advertising of the Yellow Pages, TV, radio, print, billboard, all that stuff works less well than it used to. The trick is we probably don't want to abandon it altogether. We just need to adjust. And here's how you know what to do with it. What is the lead worth? Remember the exercise we did before? How much is a lead worth? We need to compute how much a lead is worth versus how much it cost us to generate a lead via these particular sources. So for instance, I have a client that makes windows, and Yellow Pages and TV still work as a lead media. The trick is, what about the 3, 4 different kinds of Yellow Pages? So what we did was we dumped one of the 2 Yellow Pages. We just couldn't justify both, and we had to guess. We really don't know exactly what that lead costs. We have a very educated guess. We don't know, but we're pretty sure that it's break even or worse, and so we're just going to kill one of the Yellow Pages and see what happens. But you got to know how much the lead's worth if you want to save the money on these items. So I found some research, and you have a link. This is a wonderful presentation, but it's 112 slides, and it's primarily on the increasing importance of mobile advertising and just mobile content in general. But I snagged a couple of slides from this that I thought were very interesting. And as of 2010, internet advertising spending actually exceeded print advertising, newspaper advertising and magazine advertising for the first time as in 300 years. And of course, you can imagine that that trend is going to continue. But the next slide is the interesting one. What this slide shows, if you can see it, is the amount of time that people spend on certain medias versus the amount of advertising spending on those medias. So as you can see in the middle, that TV is about equal. People spend 43% of their time watching TV, and 42% of the ad spend is on TV. The interesting one is print, where 25% of the spend is there, but only 7% of the time is spent in print. And you know what's going to happen there. Yes, ma'am.
While you're presenting this, we do have a question. Want to know, how do they know what to cut?
Well, at least if we look at the graph, it looks like you got to cut print because people are spending much more than there. I don't know what to tell you to cut because it's very difficult to cut. But the fact of the matter is we can't spend 110% of revenues on marketing. And so what I advocate to our clients is this, is to use a franchise marketing model, meaning most franchises, and back when I was in the Meineke business, we used to have to send Meineke 10% of our revenues, and then they took care of all of the marketing for us. But what I learned from that, and it was a good lesson, is that you just got used to spending 10% of your revenues on marketing, and that you had to drive the traffic that you needed to drive with 10% of your marketing, not 5, not 8, not 12. 10. And that's, I think, how you do it, is most small businesses do not do this. What they do is they make a decision by decision basis. Oh, I can't cut that yellow pages because I might lose leads. I understand that. But with thinking like that, you end up overspending. And so you're far better off to say, I want to spend 3%, 7%, 25%, whatever the right number is, of our revenues to market, to get leads, and to get customers. And now you have a finite pile of money, and I think that deciding what to spend it on gets a lot easier once you know exactly how much you need to spend. So that's hopefully that helps. But if you look to the right on this graph and you look at the internet, that basically 10% of people's time is being spent on mobile devices, iPads in particular. I actually looked at our stats for my business model site the other day and noticed that of the mobile, iPad was about 80% of the mobile traffic. I mean, they have every phone model in the world listed, but it was surprising how much traffic is iPad. But look at that spread. And what the woman that created this presentation is saying, that there's a $20 billion opportunity for the advertisers. That's mostly irrelevant to us. But if people are spending 10% of their time on mobile and only 1% of the advertising is there, that's an opportunity for us as well to seize some of those eyeballs that are spending it online and in mobile, and that we should be increasing our spend and our effort in those areas. So let's get into the specifics, and here's what I'm going to do with this. Warning in advance, this is going to be the drinking from the fire hose. My objective in this is not necessarily to educate you on all the how-to. We could spend half an hour or an hour on each of these, and I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a tremendous amount of information at you very quickly and give you more of a laundry list, and then during the implementation sessions, that's when you can get things clarified, because some of this won't apply to everybody, and I really don't want to get bogged down in the details. So let's get rolling through this, and I'm just going to cover these one at a time. There's quite a few of them. Now, I'm going to apologize on pay-per-click before I start, because I know some of you know this and some of you are quite savvy on this. However, my experience with mid-sized businesses and small businesses is that many of them are not using pay-per-click, and it is a very good tool in the bag, and I believe that all small businesses should be doing some pay-per-click advertising. So I'm going to do a little 101 on this. Sorry if you already know it. But pay-per-click advertising, which is basically, if you look at, oops, I thought I had my slides, sorry, which is the paid ads on Google. Search engine optimization is the free ones that get listed in the order that Google thinks is the best. The pay-per-click will jump you right to the top of the list. You can buy the #1 slot, and it works like an auction. Whoever bids the most gets to be first. And so you can jump over the search terms by just paying for it. And what we want to do when we do pay-per-click is my preferred method and what I have found works for client is to work on what we'll call the long tail terms. That if we'll go back to a tire store. We probably don't want to buy tire store because it's going to be expensive and competitive, but we might want to buy Cooper Tire Store or Firestone Tire Store. Those are long tail terms because those tend to be less competitive and cheaper. So that's one of the good tricks. So I've got some 101 pay-per-click tricks for you, and I've got some advanced tricks for you. And before I do that, let me jump ahead. This is what the Google AdWords program looks like. So if you wanted to use AdWords, you just go to Google, you sign up, they'll take a credit card, they only charge it if you pay, and then you can go in and see what words, and this is for one of our clients that makes party favors, and so here's light up novelties, and he'll bid, looks like we'll only have to bid a quarter on that, and then we'll see how many clicks and how many impressions that we get. And this is quite a robust area. It's complicated, and we don't have time to even scratch the surface of it, but this is where you enter your words, and you can track them, and you can control your spend and all that. And then this is what's called the AdWords Editor, which is a program that Google has that does some things much better than the online version. It works a lot more like a spreadsheet, and you can see all of your words and adjust all of your words. And so you'll want to have both if you do pay-per-click advertising. But here's some
Jim, we've got another question on that. They want to know what's the average cost of pay-per-click advertising.
It varies widely. The minimum bid on pay-per-click is 10 cents per click, and keep in mind that it is pay per click. So you don't, unlike newspaper advertising, this is part of the reason why Google is so profitable and successful, is you only pay for pay-per-click advertising if they click it and if they go to your site. Now, interestingly, about 5 years ago, we redid our site, and I had a couple broken links, and I paid for a bunch of clicks that went nowhere because the page had changed. So you pay when they click it on Google, not necessarily to land on your page. So make sure your links work right. Check your ads. But you only pay if they click. You don't pay to get it displayed. Now, Google does have a pay per display. Frankly, I say stay away from that. I have found that that is less effective in general than pay per click. But the minimum bid is 10 cents. So 10 cents will get you a click, especially in a non-competitive word. But for instance, if you're not on page one on your own name, so if you're Bob's Draperies or Sally's Draperies, and you're not on page one, which sometimes can be difficult depending on your company name, just buy it. Pay 10 cents and get on page one for your own name. It's a great shortcut while your SEO is kicking in. The maximum bid, believe it or not, is $50, $50 per click. And right now you're probably going, you're kidding me, $50 per click? I assure you there are people that are paying $50 per click, and there are terms that are so competitive that they would pay more than $50 per click. And I'll tell you what they are, the ones that I know about. Mesothelioma Dallas attorney. Mesothelioma lawyer. Think about how much those lawyers pay for the back of the phone book. In Indianapolis, I know the law firm has the back of the phone book. Back in the heyday, that used to cost $21,000 per month for the back of the phone book. That's a lot of $50 clicks to get a qualified prospect looking for something. So people will pay that. I'm kind of I like to be $1.50 a click for terms that matter. But again, this is math. What's it worth to get them to your web page? How good is your web page to convert them into some form of a buyer? And that's where squeeze items come in. We're going to talk about those in about 10 slides. And then how good are we at taking someone that comes into our marketing funnel and turning them into a client? How much is it worth to be a client? It's just math that you can back into it. And it all works down to how much do we pay for this methodology to get us what we need. But in general, unless it is just an absolute dead bullseye, what they call a buying term. So for instance, one of my keywords is business plan. If I have someone that wants to search for free business plan, I'm not even going to pay for someone looking for a free business plan. But if I have someone that says paid business plan writer, and that's someone that wants to spend money. They call that a spend term. That's someone that wants to spend money. Well, you might pay $5 or $10 for that click because that person's looking to spend money. But a lot of times they're not quite that clean. All right, let me get back on slide here. Pay-per-click 101 tricks, the basic stuff. Number one, use the AdWords editor. It's so much easier to do one thing in particular, and that's the next bullet. There are 3 types of matches. There's what they call a phrase. So if we say business plan, anything that has a phrase matches anything that has the word business and the word plan in it. So I want to write a plan for a business my brother is starting. If you had a phrase match for business plan, you would actually show up on that. An exact match is the exact words in the order that you have them and only those words. So if I type cheap business plan and someone's buying business plan, that will not show up. That would show up under the phrase match, what they call that would be the phrase match, not the broad match. The broad match was the one I described first. Basically, any of the words appear in any search. The phrase match is that in any order combination, business plan, plan business, as long as they're together, that will show up, and the exact match is exactly what that is. But here's why you want to use those, and it's very easy to copy and paste and change in the AdWords editor. That's why you want to use it, is you want to have a phrase, an exact, and a broad for every term you do, because the broad tends to cost more and the leads tend to be worse. The phrase and exact tend to go down in price and be much better leads, and Google is very ethical, believe it or not, about how much they charge you. That if you have an exact match for a nickel and you have a broad match for $5 and it comes up exact match, they're going to charge you a nickel, not the $5. So you definitely want to leverage that piece right there. That's one of the best tricks I've got, and it's really easy to do with the editor. The other thing is you can do a time of day, location, or day of the week. So if you know that on the weekends it's a bunch of students trolling your site, you can shut your ads off on the weekend. You can shut your ads off in the middle of the night if you don't want to get hits from India and Pakistan. And you can also change your bid by time of the day. If you find that the best leads come in at lunch hour, you could double your bids at lunch hour if you so choose. And then the other thing that is a trick that a consultant taught me is kill your low conversion ads, meaning I'll just tell you the bottom line. I did a campaign with a consultant about 3-4 years ago, and we were able to triple the lead flow of our pay-per-click ads while cutting the cost in half. Exact same terms by doing the stuff that we're talking about. And there's some other things that are more advanced in the naming rules, but Google doesn't like ads that they display that don't make them money. I mean, think about it. They're like a newspaper. They display an ad. If nobody clicks it, they don't want to show it. You need to get rid of those. You need to either pause them or delete them, because your overall conversion rate affects how much you pay per ad. If you don't convert well, Google will charge you more. They're basically going to say, your ad stinks. If you want me to display it, you're going to have to pay me more, is what they do. All right, a couple advanced tricks for those of you that know pay-per-click. The other thing is look at image ads. You can see I had some image ads done for my business model evaluator. So here's a little square one over here. Image ads tend to be cheaper and work better. So if you can get some image ads, I think I had a bunch of banner ads drawn, probably 15 sizes for a couple $100. It really wasn't tremendously expensive to get those done, and they have paid for themselves in reduced ad costs. That it might cost me $0.10 to display this really nice image ad, and it might cost me $1 to display a less effective text ad. So use image ads if it fits for you, especially if a product with a picture. And then naming rules. Real quickly, what naming rules are is you don't want one campaign with all your words. So if I have, I'll just go back to my tires. If I wanted to look for tire store indie, and I wanted to look for or search for cheap tires, those go together. But if I wanted to go alternator repair, and I have a campaign called Tire Store that has a bunch of words about tire stores, and then I throw in alternators and starters and buy a floor jack, Google doesn't like that. That violates their naming rules, and what will happen is you'll pay more for your ads. That's one of the ways that we got the cost down of ours, is basically no more than 10 words in a group. You want to have lots of campaigns, and you want the campaign named the same thing as the word. So what I would do on the Tire Store is you create a campaign called Tire Store, and you put a bunch of search words that have tire and or store in them in that campaign. And then when you are out of those words, you go and do another one, and that will save you a bundle of money on pay-per-click. Let's talk about mobile. I know that most of you on the call do not have any type of mobile lead generation. So I'm going to talk about two primary things that you can do. The easiest one that I can almost insist that everyone do is make your site work on the web. And I don't mean that your smartphone miniaturizes your site. I mean a mobile-ready website, a site that is designed to work on the web. I'm sure you've seen on CNN or some of the bigger sites that it will say m.cnn.com. That means mobile. That M means mobile, but that's the mobile site of CNN, not there. There's a really easy and free way to make your site mobile ready. If you are using WordPress for your site, which is a content management system, or Joomla, which is another popular one, they have free plugins that will make your site web ready for A, instantly, and B, for free. The one that we use on our WordPress sites is called WordPress Mobile Edition. That is literally the name of the plugin. You can just search for the plugin, download the plugin, activate the plugin, and you're done. Check next. So that's an easy one. The one that's a little bit trickier, but I would contend that 80% of all businesses will have an app in the next 5 years, is app development can be a great lead catcher. So let me give you a few ideas. Great Clips has a great online check-in system, and you're seeing this in restaurants a lot. I know people that are writing applications for restaurants for online check-in rather than sitting around clogging up their lobby, blocking the doors so people can't come in, letting people check in from their phones. Shared calendars, it's a kind of a cousin of the same thing, that if you will make your calendar public and just let clients schedule themselves or see their schedules, that will fit for some of you as well. A couple of places you can see that. There's one called fullslate.com that is primarily used by like hairdressers. So if you want to go get your hair cut at 10 o'clock, you can go in there, see if the appointment's open, book it, put your credit card in, it will do the reminders, it'll do everything. Zoho is a popular free shared calendar that you can use, zoho.com. I love quote calculators, as you know, but you could do a quote calculator as an app. And by the way, apps can cost $500 to create. Everybody thinks an app costs 5 or 10 grand. They do not cost 5 or 10 grand. I did an app for $300 for one of our clients. It does not have to be expensive. So if you have a plant or something that could be a tour, you could put a virtual tour on there, a product demonstration. I love these live video feeds. Again, transparency, transparency, transparency. This is where it's our friend. It's just not our friend in pricing. Things like daycare, you know, you can move the cameras around and see that your kids are safe. Or Esurance has a great one where you can actually see your car being repaired. And then they also combine that daily progress check-in. Think about all your customer service calls where people go, status check, status check, status check. How's my order? Where's my order? Look what FedEx did with that. You now go online, you self-service it, you check your own. Same thing as a mobile app, or customer service web chat is another great one that you could use on mobile. But these are all easy ideas. You know, the other thing about apps right now, you got a huge advantage, if nothing else, you get cool points. 5 years from now, you do an app after everybody has one. Boring. You do one today, you look like you know what you're doing. So if you're going to be stuck doing one in the next 5 years, why don't you just early adapt and do it today so that you can look like you are technology savvy to your clients. All right, let me turn the page here. Search engine optimization, SEO, search engine optimization. And what this is this is just getting to the top of the free Google listings. And this is the game that we want to win. Most of the pros will tell you that we don't want to do pay-per-click at all because we want to win on the free. You get much more traffic on the free listings and you don't have to pay. Where we use pay is a bridge, much like a bridge loan. When we need to be on page 1 and we can't SEO our way onto page 1, we use pay-per-click. And then when we get there on SEO, we drop the pay-per-click and we stop paying and we save a bunch of money. SEO has changed a lot in the very recent past because of this Penguin update that Google did. And what that is Google has this incredibly complex formula by which they mathematically determine how those results get displayed. Who's first? Well, they have a formula. It's not some guy deciding. It's math. And it's everything from inbound links to your Google page rank, to how many pages are in your web, to the title of the page, to the domain name that it is, to how long your domain name is registered. This is not in the PowerPoint. And by the way, this is a really easy one. Everyone on the call, go register your domain name for 10 years. If your domain name it expires and you're just going to renew it anyway for a lousy $7 or whatever, if your domain name expires in less than 1 year, Google actually penalizes you for that. They will push your site down. So just go reserve it for 10 years. Because Google's logic is if you paid for it for 10 years, it's going to be around. So we should put it higher in the ranking. But this Penguin update has thrown a lot of people for a huge loop. We had a very fast-growing company, called Slingshot, that was SEO company here in Indianapolis that has made the Inc. 500 3 years in a row. They grew 9,400% last year, doing terrifically. They just laid off 60% of their staff, 60% of their staff solely because of this Google Penguin update, and it's because the short version, you don't need to know the details, but the short version is that the link building techniques that were automated, software driven, and could be done very easily offshore don't work anymore and probably hurt you more than they help you. And that's probably good news for us because the big companies that could outspend us, now all their tactics don't work. So this is probably good news, but the point is you need to be familiar with the Penguin update and how it applies to your search rankings. I am a huge fan of rankpay.com, and here's why. If you decide that you want to be on the first page for cheap tires Indy, what we need to know is, can you win that? Because there are terms that you can't win. I was talking about business model before, or not business model, business plan, excuse me, is if you go to and Google business plan, that is a term that would be virtually impossible to kick the #1 person out of. They've been there way too long, they're entrenched, they have all of the factors, are 10s out of 10. It would be very difficult to even get on page 1 for there. In my opinion, business plan is a term that I could not win. But if I go to RankPay and type in my site and business plan, it will do two things. They will flat out tell me how much it's going to cost to rank at certain areas, number 30 to number 20, number 20 to number 10, number 10 to number 1, etc., and how much per month you would pay for that. And secondly, and most importantly, how likely it is. And so if it comes up that your odds are poor, here's a professional SEO company telling you that they don't think they can do it. Guess what? I don't think you can do it either, most likely, and so you probably should take their word for it. They'll also give you some suggestions. So that's a great tool to figure out what words you can win and what words you can't win. I like going for those long tail words because we can get on page 1 quickly, and we can get on page 1 with regularity as well. A couple of other interesting tools that are just fun to play with. There's one called Keyword Spy. KeywordSpy.com, again free, and what it will do is you can go to your competitors' websites and it will tell you what keywords they're going after, which can be interesting because sometimes they thought of some clever ones that you have not. Because the way that this tends to work is the obvious words we're not going to win. We're not going to win business plan. We're not going to win business planning. We're not going to win business plan template. Everybody knows those are the common words. They literally get millions of searches per month. They're uber competitive. But what you can win is one-page business plan or quick business plan or business plan components, or simple business plan. Longer tail words, words that have less traffic, but it's hard to find those. And finding out what your competitors are going after can be a good way to learn that. There's another one called Spyfu, spyfu.com, and what that does is tells you what terms your competitors are paying for on Google pay-per-click, which is, again, is another interesting one to see what they're paying. It has an estimate of what it thinks they're paying. It's just wrong. I mean, it's not affiliated with Google. It's highly inaccurate, but I take it with a grain of salt. It could be dead on, but from some of the ones where I typed in myself, it thought I was paying significantly more than I was paying in some situations. Don't forget the reputation management component of this as well. We'll talk about it in another slide, but there is a reputation management component for SEO, and here's what I mean, is if I'm looking for cheap tires Indianapolis, and I know that there's a Firestone or a Goodyear down the street, and I go type it in, and my preferred store isn't on page 1, that is a reputation management issue. That when a customer Googles and doesn't find you, that's a problem that needs to be fixed. So you need to weigh how much we need to be on page 1, both from a getting leads point of view and from a reputation management point of view. The other thing is, don't forget Google Places. If you are a retailer, if you're B2C, Google Places is probably more important than search engine optimization, and I'll show you a picture why. And because if you look at this screenshot, and this is for bridal dresses. I have a client that has a big bridal store. If you look at bridal store, here is a search for bridal store. See the top box? There are 3 ads there. Those are paid ads. Those are Google pay-per-click ads. And notice they come first. Then we drop down, and this one right here, Designer Bridal Gowns by David Bridal, is #1 on the search engine. And then there's another one, Desi.com, that is #2 on the search engine. And then everybody that is #3 or below basically gets screwed over by Google Places, because that second box is Google Places. Those are all of, it's basically Yellow Pages on Google is the short version of it, or my interpretation of it. But these are free ads. They do not cost anything. There is a way to optimize these and get to be first instead of second. Notice that Demetrios comes before David Bridal. It's not in alphabetical order. That there's optimization to Google Places, a whole different topic, but there is a way to get to the top of Google Places. But look at this first one in Google Places is effectively third. So if you have a local business and you want to get local customers, even if you're B2B, you should definitely be on Google Places, because it always appears on page 1 because it's Google on Google. Make sense? But that they were always going to be on page 1, and so I want you to get on Google Places. Write yourself a note. Get on Google Places. Here's how you do it. Go Google Places, and you've got to fill out some form. I've done it, and I frankly have forgotten. It's been so long. But they actually mail you a postcard that you have to verify, because it's address driven. It's much like a phone book. They want to make sure that you're actually at that address. So it takes about a month. So if you want to get on Google Places next week, it's not going to happen. You're going to need to go online, fill out the thing. They'll mail you a postcard. You have to type in a code and get it back to them, and then a couple of weeks later you appear on Google Places. But there's no harm in doing that. If nothing else, you get a high-quality link from Google, which helps your SEO. Everybody's favorite topic, social media. And everybody's going, oh, dear God, here we go, social media. Yes, social media. Here's the thing about social media. I know for most of you are B2B, and I know that social media seems like an annoyance, a waste of time, and a black hole. And you're probably right on about 90% of that. The problem is you're wrong on 10% of it. A couple interesting things about social media. Number 1, social media can be a whale lander type account. Specific example that I know about secondhand, Lou Gerstner, the former president of IBM, the person credited with turning IBM around in the 90s, responded to an answer on LinkedIn for a consultant that I know in Texas. And she told me, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden I have an email from Lou Gerstner seeking me out for an answer that she gave on LinkedIn. So it can happen. But the point is, most of it is junk and a waste of time. I'll give you that. The problem is you may have a whale land on your front door as a result of it too, and you really don't know who's listening out there. So here's the way that I recommend that you think about social media if you think that most of it is garbage. It's a reputation management issue, not a traffic builder. You are not going to get a ton of Twitter traffic. You are not going to get 1,000 people that visit your LinkedIn page every day. You're going to get a little bit of traffic. But if you don't have your LinkedIn set up right, it's a reputation management issue. If you have a link, if you don't have a link to Facebook and people think you should, like because you have younger customers, you have a reputation management issue. If you have a Twitter account like that example I showed you in the preview call where you got 11 followers and call yourself a social media expert, you have a reputation management issue. So what I would recommend is get all of them. Get a Facebook fan page. which is separate from an individual account. Get your LinkedIn account. Don't have 34 connections on your LinkedIn account. You know, if nothing else, people are Googling your key executives, and they want to know that they're out there. You need to communicate that you get it to people, and that means having this stuff at least set up right, and then have enough friends, followers, whatever, to be credible. And that means 200 people on LinkedIn that you're connected to. That means 1,000 fans on your Facebook page, and that means 1,000 people on Twitter, and you can buy them. If you don't want to actually go out and get real ones, just buy them. It doesn't matter. It's a credibility issue. It's just a number. You know, if we want to actually grow it and use Twitter, I have a client that sells, believe it or not, fire protection stuff that drops from airplanes that effectively uses Twitter. There's 10 people in the country that buy this, and it's, you know, the state of California. But fires are fast moving, and Twitter is actually used in the fire protection community, and they effectively use Twitter to communicate with prospects, customers, and to gain credibility in the industry. So if you're poo-pooing it, you may be cutting off something that actually could matter in your business. If you want some of the more advanced stuff, so that's the basics. Just get the big ones covered and do it credibly. Starting a LinkedIn group, especially for, you know, manufacturers, distributors, people that are wholesalers, B2B type people, start a LinkedIn group. Again, a long tail group. All of the basic groups are started. If you are a wholesale, I met with somebody that sold wholesale plumbing supplies to builders. Well, there's probably a builders group. There's probably a builders Indiana group. There's probably a plumbing supply group. If they wanted to do it, they should get creative and start a group that their customers would participate in that is just a discussion group. And then lead that group, start discussions. You'll need to work at it, but it's a great way to get connected with people that could turn into customers. The LinkedIn groups can be really effective. The other thing is join 5 other LinkedIn groups. They're out there, and participate. And by participate, I mean don't go on there and say buy our stuff. Just get in there and get in the dialogue. Don't jump in there and start selling stuff. The other thing is surveys. Surveys are great. Do a survey on LinkedIn. Do a survey on your blog. These are easy ways to do social media that isn't painful and works. And the other thing that isn't on here, we'll talk about blogs in a minute, is it is super easy to feed your blog into Twitter and Facebook, so that you're constantly pushing out information or looking like you're pushing out information, but you're really not. You'd be surprised how little time it takes to manage Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. In particular, you can automate 90% of it. It's really not that bad if you do it right. All right, blogs. Yeah, I told you we'd get to blog. Blog. I'll bet that of the 30 people on the call, that 25 of them don't have a blog. And I'm going to guess that the 25 that don't have a blog because they, A, don't like to write, a la my joke at the beginning, and B, they think it's a giant pain. And it is a giant pain. But it doesn't have to be as painful as you think. Here's why you want to do a blog. Well, number one, let me back up why I think people don't have a blog, is that they feel like they're writing a term paper in high school, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. That there are all kinds of blogging techniques that can actually help you, where you can crank out a horrid article, and I do mean horrid, and it actually can help as long as it's not gibberish and Google catches on that it's gibberish. You can write a lousy article that will actually help your SEO. The main reason you do a blog is for search engine optimization. Here's why. If I have optimized my business model blog for the word business model, and I assure you, if I write a blog tomorrow on a company that I have not written a blog on that isn't Google or Groupon, where there's a lot of talk. So if I go write a blog on Wendy's, and I put Wendy's business model in the title of that blog post, I'll bet you that I am first on Google for Wendy's business model. Go Google Apple business model. I'm first on Apple's business model, which is really competitive because I've written 3 posts on it and I've optimized business model. So now all I got to do is write a blog post, and Google doesn't care what it says as long as it doesn't say Apple business model, Apple business model, Apple business model, Apple business model. As long as it's a real blog. Now, I try to put effort in my blogs and make them good, but my point is they don't need to be masterpieces to be on there. If you're just doing it for search engine optimization, let me tell you what a blog does for you. Number one, if you use something like a WordPress or a Joomla, it adds a page to your website. Remember we saying Google thinks that blogs with more pages are better? Well, now you write a blog and you add another page to your website. It also adds content to your website, which helps. It also puts a title in there, which is one of the keys to how Google ranks it. So, for instance, I'm working with this client that I alluded to before that does the fire protection. And one of the terms that we came up with that we know will generate traffic is fire marshal variance, meaning the fire marshal comes in, shuts a guy down because the place isn't fire safe. And they could use their product to just spray in there and very quickly fix this problem. And they sell some product that way. So we're going to write a 500 to 1,000 page article on fire marshal variance. What you can do if you need to get a variance from the fire marshal. And we will very easily get on page 1 of Google with that because it's an uncompetitive term, but you do it through your blog. It's just a really easy way. And then and the reason why it's easy is we're not pointing them to the main page of the website. We're pointing them to a very specific article designed to do a very specific thing, meaning get people that want fire marshal variances in there. And so that's what you do. You pick a keyword, fire marshal variance. Cheap tires Indy. You'll probably have to write more than one on that. I think your blog article should be probably 300 minimum to 1,000 words. You can also hire writers. There's a site if you want some very mediocre articles. There's one called iWriter, the letter I, writer.com. You can buy a blog post for $5 or $10. It won't be very good, but it will be good enough to solve the SEO issue. Now, if you want to go to the net, that's kind of level 1 blogging, we'll call it. Level 2 blogging is it's actually interesting and people want to read it. And that's where people get stuck is you got to decide, and I've got clients that have both. I got some people who just need the content and very mediocre blog posts are just fine. For my own blog, I won't do that. I know that people read it. I want people to read it. I want people to benefit from it. And so, you know, if I could throw out an easy blog post on a good topic that's easier to write than others, yeah, I'll cop to being guilty of doing that. I also wrote one on McDonald's that probably was more than a term paper worth of research in college that I did. I probably got a week in writing one blog post, and most of you won't do that. But the point is, almost all of you should have a blog. There's very little downside and an awful lot of upside. So what I like are 500-word articles is a good number, and mainly because Google likes 500-word articles. Over 1,000 words, no one's going to read it anyway. Always put a picture in your blog. Don't just have it be text. Boring. If you're really clever, use pictures and video. You may have heard the term, vlog. That's a video blog. So lots of people, what they do is, you've seen them, you just go on there, and each blog post is just a video. Go to Business Model Institute. I did one a couple of posts ago where I just took a video that we were doing for the sales virtualization, posted it up there with a quick paragraph. That's one of those easy blog posts, and believe me, I'm up for an easy blog post every now and then. It can be work. But don't forget that you could just use a picture of a new product with a paragraph can be a blog post. It's so easy to do, especially with WordPress, that you can do it. Then what you do, remember I told about doing Facebook and Twitter, and it's easy. Back to plugins for WordPress and for Joomla. Now these are WordPress plugins. There's one called WordTwit and WordBooker. I use WordTwit to every time I write a blog post, it automatically posts it to Twitter. And then WordBooker takes that exact same blog post and then it posts it on our Facebook page. So I'm not logging into Facebook or having Lori or Sue log into Facebook and update our Facebook page. And there's one for LinkedIn too, by the way. So all of these things can be automated. And it starts with your blog. You post it on your blog and then you use software basically to do the hard work of pushing it out to all of that social media. The other thing that you want to do with your blog is use FeedBurner, and FeedBurner is owned by Google, and what that does is syndicate your blog. It's real easy. You go in there, you just tell it where your blog is located, and then you can go to sites like Technorati and some of these other sites, and then Technorati, if you go to Technorati, you'll find my business model blog is on Technorati, and that brings several hundred visitors a month to my site just because it's posted on Technorati. And this is a once and done type thing. 5 years ago, when I set this up on FeedBurner, that is all the work that I had to do. It's automatically syndicated forever, and there's no work in doing it other than going to Technorati, signing up, and telling it your feed from Google. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, you don't want to write mediocre blogs, or, practice makes perfect. You've done it for a while, and now all of a sudden you go, these are pretty good. These are pretty good blogs. What is better than your own blog, and some of this is this Penguin update, is doing a guest blog for someone else probably is better than writing for your own blog, and here's why. The guest blog gets you traffic, your own blog doesn't. The only people that are going to read the blog on your site are people that are already coming to your site, or maybe we did a good search optimization and they click through to that. But getting on somebody else's blog, provided that it's bigger and better than yours, is a terrific tactic to drive traffic if you do a couple of things. One, it better be good. This is now going to have to be writing quality to get it done, so maybe you pay someone to do it. Trade rags have blogs. It's quite easy to get guest blog posts, by the way. It's not hard. You just have to assign someone to send out some emails to the trade rags and say, hey, here's how I do it, but build in a link. What you want to do is build in a link back to your site and not at the bottom of saying you can find more information at abc.com. What you want is called a textual link, meaning that you will take one of your keyword phrases, fire marshal variants, and then you will embed your keyword in the fire marshal variants, and that's the Google juice that we're looking for. That's what they call the link juice. We want that built into the keyword. And again, anybody that is a blogger, and there's all kinds of sites where you can hire these blog writers, they will know how to do that. They'll already know how to do all of that, so you can just pay someone to do that for you. The next step up from that is what I'll call old-fashioned article writing, meaning a blog is one thing, but print media is a huge step up from blogging. And this is where you start landing whales. That if you want to start landing whales, get an article about your new product or something that you're trying out in your trade rag or in Inc. magazine or any of these national magazines, and if nothing else, the credibility that builds and the lead flow, it just gets in front of a lot more eyes. If you're going to do this, do not try to do it on your own, and here's why. I'm not saying that you won't be successful. You can do it, and you can be successful. It is difficult, and it falls under that. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I assure you that you can write a very mediocre article and get it in 100 publications if you have an agent. And you can write a very good article, and you might not get it anywhere without an agent because the agent has cronies, and you want to just get access to their cronies. So there are lots of good agents that, and there's a trend in that industry that I really like, and they're doing pay-per-publication. So you can go to an agent, and I have used these type of people before, to get an Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur, etc. And what they will do is they will say that we're going to get you in front of 1 million readers, and so you get the article, and then they will go out and they'll just get it in front of 1 million readers. And some of them will be trade rags with 10,000 readers, and some of them may be Inc. magazine. And they will only charge you for success. They won't charge you the old way like a billboard of the billboard costs $5,000. I hope it works. They will only charge you once you are successful, and I certainly like that pay for performance type method. So article writing, and I know I'm talking a lot about writing. I apologize. I know none of you like it. I get it. But the point is, I didn't say you had to write. I said your company needs to have stuff written. And this is probably a system that is missing for many of you, that you don't have a way to get content. This is content creation. We're talking about digital assets. We're talking about all these things that drive leads. This is an important digital asset, and if you don't have anybody on staff, including yourself, that likes to write, can write, find someone that can. I'll tell you an interesting trick that I did. I decided I wanted some help with my blog, having to write one every week. And so what I did was I went to one of these, hubs where bloggers hang out. Just, type in hire blogger, or hire blog writer, and you'll find the ones like I'm talking about. And you can hire them, and they rank them and all of that stuff, very much like eBay. And I decided, rather than read all their samples, this seems stupid. So what I did was I put 5 topics together that I wanted to write blogs on, and I kind of outlined, the cool points that I thought would make it a good article. And I said, here's 5 topics. I took 10 bloggers that I thought looked good at a very quick glance. I'm a typical business owner. I have no patience. So 30 seconds of skimming their stuff, and then I basically said, whatever, good enough. I'll pay you $20 to write a 500 to 750 word article on any of these topics. You pick them. And then not only did I read samples that were about business models, but I also got a few blog posts. I think I got 11 of them written, and 3 of them just weren't good enough to print. I mean, they weren't good enough to print. I had to change almost all of them. Add something here, change something there, but now I'm editing, not writing, and a couple of them were very good, and I ended up with 2 or 3 of them that I still use on and off. If I know I need to post something, I'm just not up for it, then I'll go to one of the guys that I had that I really liked that used it, but I just basically had a tryout to do it, and that worked great because I got a couple of months worth of blog posts written at the same time. Okay, PR is a cousin. Again, we're kind of moving up the ladder here of the other. There are some of you that have businesses that PR, and I see that Rex is on the call, and Rex is one of the people that would definitely benefit from PR. Rex makes a great software product that helps municipalities save money and provide better police and ambulance services. And so Rex isn't going to get PR that says, hey, a police department should buy this product, but what the PR that Rex could get is how small communities that tend to be his customers can leverage this technology that used to be so expensive that they couldn't, and all the cool stuff that this does is newsworthy. And so that's kind of where the standard is. If you have something that is newsworthy and not your definition, a stranger's definition of newsworthy, and you can truly get news out of it, not the news is, I want you to buy my product. The news is newsy. Then PR is a great strategy. Same thing with the fire guys. I mean, fire put out by cool new product is really cool. These fire guys actually had their product used in Lord of the Rings, that when people were on fire, you could actually coat people in this gel, light them on fire, and nothing burns, that they're completely protected. Well, that's really cool, newsworthy, YouTube video with 1 million views type stuff. I have another client that does cell phone forensics, that actually goes in and can tell if a phone is bugged. And don't get me started. You'd be scared to death if you knew what someone could do to your cell phone, including all the stuff you've seen in the movies where it does that crazy stuff like your cell phone shut off and it's bugging. That's actually true. All of that stuff that you see is, in fact, true. Well, he was on the local news talking about, the prevalence and how easy it is to bug somebody's phone and blah, blah, blah. And he does a two-minute interview on a local, ABC station, and they put it on YouTube, and it gets 5 million views in a month. Incredible PR opportunity because it's newsworthy. But again, you're probably going to need to have a publicist or a firm if you really want to do it right. But could be great lead generators. And then lastly, public speaking. Public speaking is the ultimate whale hunting. If you want to sell something that costs $100,000 or more, I'm going to say you want to do some public speaking. And again, this is just like writing. You're scared to death to do public speaking. You don't like public speaking. You just flat out don't want to do it, which is perfectly reasonable. It's your company. You don't have to do public speaking. Fine. But someone at your company probably needs to do public speaking. Find somebody else. Hire a spokesperson. They do it on TV all the time. I'm saying just because you don't want to public speak doesn't mean that it can't be a good lead generator for your company. And, there's several ways to do it. I think that for most of us, if we're doing, typical trade show or association events, those are typically free. I would contend that most people on the call don't worry about getting paid. Effectively down the road, maybe you can get paid for this, but it's a lot like, starting in the rookie league in baseball and then moving up to A or AA ball. try to get gigs. It's much easier, again, with an agent or someone that's doing it for you. Could be somebody at your office that's an administrative person. But associations are a great place to start. Trade shows are always looking for speakers. You don't need to do the Rotary Club or anything, but I think that association and trade show events, but think about what they need. They need content. They need someone that has great content and can educate the people in the audience. And so all you need to do is find something where you hit that marketing sweet spot that we talked about before. Where
Jim?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. You've been so exciting to listen to. We do have a question. Going back to the previous slide, how often should you post a blog?
How often should you post a blog? You should post a blog. It depends. I used to do one a month. Here's the thing. It really is an SEO question, not how often you should post a blog. Frankly, you should post a blog as often as you need to. How's that for a non-answer? I used to do it once a month because I just didn't have the time to do it. Now I try to do one every week or two. But again, the more pages you have, the more Google likes you. The more pages that you have, the more opportunities you have for search engine terms. So if I had someone that really was lacking in SEO, and we had a bunch of those long tail terms, we'll go back to the tire store, and there's 10 terms that we need to have, well, they need those 10 blogs for those 10 terms now. And so maybe we back off. And so what I would do is, if you haven't done any of this, I definitely recommend just going to iWriter or hiring somebody on one of these portal sites like I was describing to just get all 10 of them written. Most business owners don't like to write. And here's the thing. I am not dogging you to become a writer. If you like it and you're good at it, terrific. Nice bonus. But I have a presentation called Business Model 2021, and I talk about all these new things that are going on, and that one of the staff positions that we need to have is someone's got to be in charge of writing for your company, and most people don't have it. And we're paying a huge price by not having someone that can write for us, because then we're not writing marketing materials, we're not writing blogs, which are marketing materials, we're not writing PR, which is marketing materials, because, oh my gosh, there's no one to do it. So my point is, if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine, but someone needs to do it. What I would do is, I think you got to do it once a month at the bare minimum, and I think anything more than a week is probably, now you're getting to be, that's an awful lot of work, unless you're playing catch up. All right, public speaking, again, trade shows, association, VAR events, for instance. I know that Cisco brings in speakers to their VAR events. So does Microsoft, where they've got a bunch of Microsoft resellers, and they get 200 of them in a room. And why are they there? Well, they want to sharpen the saw and get educated. That's a great place to speak. Now, if you want to do even better than just speaking, you will do much better if you have what I'll call a value-added leave behind, meaning you talked about something. If you had something that you could leave with the audience that would further reinforce what you said and probably sell it, that would be great. Now, this cannot be a brochure. How you buy from me is not a value-added leave behind. This is a value add for the people in the audience. So obviously the best thing is a book. If you had a book on the topic that you had, that would be best. But there are lots of things that are a close cousin to a book or book-like, meaning, again, it's just education. White papers, data studies, surveys are easy to do. Get a $200 SurveyMonkey account and do a big survey of people, and that could be something that they're not going to take the time to do, but some kind of value-added leave behind would make your speaking better. All right, I want to talk about reputation management quickly, and because this is kind of the negative of all of this stuff, and this is just things to look out for, so I'm just going to run through it really quickly, and I'm going to scare you too. Go and Google your company for ABC sucks, ABC scam, the names of you and your executives, ABC history, and see what comes up. You might be surprised and annoyed. It could be a reputation management issue. And if you have a common name, I almost guarantee you that there's going to be one that says scam, because there's all these sites that are trying to collect clicks from the word scam. Have someone outside your company or someone maybe new at your company look at all of your online presence from an outside perspective. Have them look at your Facebook page, your Twitter, your website, everything that your website links to, the directory pages. Just literally take a look at your whole online presence and find out what they think. Find out what they think, because the fact is, back to that guy that had the 11 Twitter followers, it's like walking into a store that is disheveled. If you're going into a fine men's clothing store and you have to, kick a screeching cat out of the way and there's lint balls everywhere, you're probably not going to buy a $1,000 suit there because they create the wrong impression. And everyone looks digitally at you first, and you have to create the right impression. It's a branding issue. Are competitors buying your name? Meaning, if you Google ABC Tire Store, what comes up on Google? Have you Googled yourself? Buying your own name is a good trick. It's also a good trick to buy your competitor's name. You got a competitor that's in your crosshairs? Go buy their name on pay-per-click. Do you own your Facebook name? Meaning, if you are ABC Tire and you have not reserved ABC Tire on Twitter, on Facebook, those are basically free domain names. You're screwing up if you have not done that, because what's going to happen is somebody else is going to reserve ABC Tire. And so now someone's going to be looking for you on Facebook, and they're going to type in Facebook/ABC Tire, and they're going to find somebody else's page. So even if you don't want to do a Facebook or a Twitter page, go reserve your name while you still can. And then do a bunch of Google searches, and this may be something that this outside person does too. Do a bunch of Google searches that a customer might do. What is your customer Googling? And it may be something crazy. I know during the preview call I talked about the art lesson plan for the people that were selling art fundraising stuff. It may not all be fundraising for a fundraising company. It may be art lesson plan. It may be misbehaving kids in art class. What is being searched? And there are tools on Google that will tell you what's being searched. Google's great about telling you what's being searched. But sometimes things that are getting searched 50 times could be a gold mine. That's a pretty low volume, 50 a month. But those could be a gold mine if it's a buying term or if it's a direct bullseye for what you're needing. So are you in those searches? Are you conspicuously absent from those searches? And to throw you one more log on the fire, Wikipedia. Number one, you want to be in Wikipedia. It is huge link juice for Google. You will jump off the charts if you get in Wikipedia. We've been able to pull that off for some clients. It's not easy, but the other thing that's going on is what they're calling churnalism, meaning a bunch of content, Newsweek articles or whatever, is being cut and paste from Wikipedia because it's in the public domain. And the reason I bring this up is if you are in Wikipedia, this is a reputation management issue because it better be good, what's in Wikipedia, and any knucklehead can add to your Wikipedia page. So imagine what your competitors are thinking, that there actually is what I'll call corporate espionage being done around Wikipedia, where Apple is trying to get bad things on Samsung's page, and Samsung's trying to get bad information on Apple's Wikipedia page. So monitor that and make sure that is a positive. All right, back to how we get stuff. We talked about these before. The new methods that are working, and these are offline methods. Co-marketing, meaning marketing with other people. You've seen all these products that use other products, Cascade with the power of Dawn, or OxyClean. Believe it or not, you can actually go to Procter & Gamble and license with the power of Dawn, or OxyClean, or with Tide, that you can literally pay to co-brand these things. It's almost like a franchise fee. But what we want, and I put this in red for a reason, is anyone who sells different items to the same customer and this is co-marketing rule number 1. It's probably rule number 1 through 10. You want to know who to co-market with? Here's how you do it. Anyone who sells different stuff to the same people. I sell computers. Well, I want people to sell printer. They sell paper. They sell office supplies. They sell chairs. They sell floor cleaning. They sell janitorial services. They sell prepaid legal plans. I don't care. Anybody that sells different stuff to the same people and, number one, has a more powerful brand. You know, the Power of Dawn has a more powerful brand than Jim's Floor Cleaner. So we want to leverage the Power of Dawn because it's a more powerful brand. Or they have a customer list that we could sell into. People do this all the time, right? Oh my gosh, you are selling people I'm not selling to? Great. They have better marketing muscle, meaning that their marketing is more effective than ours. We want to piggyback on that. Or they have a different marketing channel, meaning they generate all their leads through infomercial, but we generate all of ours at a trade show, etc. Again, that they use a different channel to get leads. So that means, you know, because some people, you know, what we've found, we use about 17 different marketing methods at our company, and we found some people, you know, you can get on the phone, and that's the most effective method. Whereas other people, you can only get them through, you know, a postcard or a direct mail. And other people, you could only get through a referral. And so if you change that marketing channel, you get different people than if you used a different channel. Another similar strategy, brand borrowing. This is not when we're partnering, we're just going to borrow their brand. You know, the official shoestring of the Chicago Cubs, or the official hat of the Chicago Cubs, or the official toothpaste of the Chicago Cubs. I'm borrowing a brand that people trust, the Cubs. I'm a Cubs fan. I'm embarrassed to say so, but we're Cubs fans in my family. So a brand that at least some people trust in the Cubs. Notice all those web pages that have all logos at the bottom. Well, these are our customers. Well, why are they doing that? Well, gee, if IBM and Apple and the New York Times buy from these people, they must be okay, right? Well, that's brand borrowing. Or you've seen the, you know, as seen in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. Again, they're borrowing the brand of the Wall Street Journal by saying, well, the Wall Street Journal doesn't print crap, and if you saw it in the Wall Street Journal, it must be good. Another strategy, partnering. So here's a form of partnering that I just love. It's hard to do, and some of you won't be able to do it. But I've got a client that sells mobile technology solutions to transportation companies. That's a pretty tight niche. Mobile for transportation. And we were trying to think how we could leverage some of those things that was in the slide before, some brand borrowing, you know, get a different channel into these big trucking companies in particular. And so we started thinking about it. We said, who benefits if we sell a mobile app to a trucking company? And we said, well, Verizon and AT&T and the people that sell data plans sure benefit, because now they just go out and they buy 5,000 iPads or 5,000 smartphones and have to buy a whole bunch more data. So we stopped approaching trucking companies and started approaching Verizon and saying, we need to joint sell this, because Verizon has a lot easier time getting an audience at a big trucking company than we do. So we had Verizon kick open the door for us, and then we piggybacked on them because Verizon needs us to sell them on the technology, and then everybody wins. Another partnering opportunity, I saw a neat thing down in Jacksonville, Florida at the Maggiano's restaurant down there, where if you owned a Lexus, valet parking was free. That the Lexus dealer partnered with Maggiano's and paid for the valet parking for all of the Lexus dealers. And so maybe that's kind of a co-brand or whatever, but again, it's a partnering strategy. Lexus figures people that eat at Maggiano's make good Lexus customers. Maggiano's feels that people that owns Lexus are good to eat at Maggiano's. Another client that I mentioned before that sells into police departments in particular partners up with a camera vendor that, again, very similar to the transportation thing, is if he makes a sale, a bunch of cameras get sold. So what they do is they partner up and they sell into each other's client base and prospect base, because why should they reinvent the wheel? It's a win-win every time. They're non-competitive, selling different stuff to the same people. The other thing that I've seen some savvy people do is create consortiums, that if you have a big international conglomerate that just has more resources, that they'll team up with 5 people, make a consortium to go in and bid as one entity on some of these RFPs that individually none of them could do. Let's talk about squeeze items. So we drive traffic to our web page. A lot of what we've been talking about gets traffic to our webpage, pay-per-click, SEO, social media, gets them there. How do we get the prospect to stop hiding in the bushes? If they go to our website and leave and we don't know it, it doesn't do us any good. So what we need is a squeeze item. And what a squeeze item is think quid pro quo, that if you tell me who you are, in particular your email, I will give you something of value, but it works the other way from what I said. First, I give you something of value, then you give me your information. And they won't otherwise. I'm sure that all of you have been into a physical store. So let's say you walk into a Macy's, and sure enough, a salesperson or a floor person comes up and says, "Can I help you?" And typically you say, "No, thank you," right? Why? Because they don't have enough to offer you to have you say, "Yes, you can help me." But I'll bet you that there's been a situation where you walked into a store, you were in a huge hurry, you needed to know where something was, and 99 times out of 100 you say, "No, I don't need any help." But this time they say, "Can I help you?" And you say, "Yes. Where do you keep the Q-tips?" or "Where do you do whatever?" Because they had something you wanted. And you would put up with the sales call or the discomfort or whatever it was to get what you wanted. And that's the kind of quid pro quo I'm talking about. That if you have what they want enough, they'll give you what you want, which is their contact info, because that identifies them as a prospect, gets them into our virtual sales process, and gets us what we want. So everything could be a squeeze item. And this is where that marketing sweet spot that we talked about before, where's your expertise? Where's the prospect receptivity, and in what mode are we going to get it? In this case, it'll be digital. Or it could be a white paper. It could be a PowerPoint. It could be survey results. It could be a photo. It could be anything. But I would challenge you, I would contend that the free version of Angry Birds or any of those free downloads is a squeeze item. So I have a little data on Angry Birds. It was released in 2009. By 2010, they were only doing 10 million bucks. You know, millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of downloads. They do a lousy 10 million bucks. But between 2010 and 11, their revenue went up 10 times to $100 million, putting almost 70 million on the bottom line. But 30% of their business is selling merchandise. Toys, candy, clothes, hats, dress-up suits to be an Angry Bird, you name it. But if they do 648 million downloads a year, 648 million to get 100 million in revenue, that's 16 cents per download. So we're thinking that they're not selling $1.99 games or $10 hats. It's a numbers game to them. They do 648 million free downloads, a squeeze item, and now they know who everybody is, and they get everybody comfortable with Angry Birds, and then they upsell them. Angry Birds game is nothing more than a squeeze item. A very, very good one and a very, very clever one, but a squeeze item. All right, one of the premises to everything that we're talking about, keep in mind this is part of our sales virtualization program. Hang on, I'm seeing a question here, but I'm having a hard time getting it. Oh, never mind. That's the old question. Sorry, how often should you post a blog? There's no such thing as a bad lead, because our system is going to get rid of the bad leads, especially when we talk about lead scoring next week. We'll talk about this. We do not need to worry about what if somebody comes in and doesn't have any money. What if somebody comes in and is a bad fit? Our system is going to easily, cheaply, and freely filter out the bad leads. We do not need to worry about. What we want to do is cast the widest net humanly possible with as many ways as possible and have a more the merrier philosophy, because with this system, one of the nice parts is we don't need to worry about bad leads because they now cost nothing to take care of, and they'll probably self-filter out. And what will happen is, remember that mutual opt-out that's one of our 4 prongs is, they're going to opt out. If they're a bad lead, they're going to opt out. We don't need to worry about it. We've set up a system that will run over and over again and get them to opt out for us. That the name of the game is just to create as many leads as possible, but we need to create the lead for less than the value of the lead. So back to, remember I was telling you about the window guy it cost $247 to sit in somebody's living room? So let's just say that it cost him $25 a lead. If it cost him $25 a lead, the real trick is how can he create a whole bunch of $20 leads or $10 leads or $24 leads, leads that are less than $25. That's the name of this game. And so if we do pay-per-click and we pay $1 a click and 1 out of 20 turns into a lead, well, that's $20 per lead and we're good because they're worth 25 and we're buying them for 20. However, keep in mind that we're fighting the laws of diminishing returns, so that if we do pay-per-click and we're spending $500 a month on pay-per-click, taking it to $1,000 probably will not be just a double extrapolation because we're already getting the best $500 worth of leads and we're now getting the second best $500 layered on top of that. So it's a little bit trickier, and so mind your money on this, and keeping in mind that you are fighting that the best leads come the easiest, and then each additional lead tends to be a little bit worse and a little bit more expensive, and at some point we do hit that point of diminishing returns, but knowing your numbers is the key to that.
Jim, before you hit on the schedule, there was a question in the box. I'm finding this all a bit overwhelming. Where do I start?
Wow, okay. Where do you start? Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, isn't it? Here's where I would start. You're going to just hate me. I'd start with a blog. I would start with a blog because it's easy, even if you don't have a WordPress site. You know, if you have a simple web page, WordPress or Joomla are great. I think WordPress is easier than Joomla. And again, these are both free packages. You can get a very nice WordPress site done for $300, $400, $500. But even if you don't have a WordPress site and you don't have a blog, it's very easy to tack a WordPress blog onto your existing site. Maybe $100 to a technology person to set that up. It's not that complicated to do. I've only had one that was really complicated to do that way. But again, they accomplished the mission. And once you have WordPress, it's a lot like using Word. It's what you see, it's what you get. So if you started with a blog, here's what that would do. It's a very low-risk way to create content. And even if in a year from now you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wrote that, you can just delete it. Take it down. You can delete a blog or make it private. You can get rid of it. Whereas on other stuff, sometimes you can't do that. But it's really about creating content. A lot of this, unfortunately, centers around creating quality content, information, which is a leverageable asset, a leverageable free digital asset that will have value to your prospects and clients. And so I think the best way to enter the rookie league is to do a blog, and just shoot for one a month. Do one blog a month, and as you get comfortable with it, or you find someone that can write good blogs for you, if you stick with somebody, they'll get better at it. Dial it up, and then you can start doing some of the other things. In particular, I try to get some placement in some trade rags. That does a lot of good for a lot of people, and if you can get that, now we're cooking. So thanks for the question. Appreciate it. All right, let's review the schedule real quick. Again, we are on lesson 3 right now. Next week, now that we've talked about how to generate more leads, we're going to talk about lead nurturing, a lot about lead scoring. How do we know when we're done marketing to these people through our virtualized system, and when do we start handing them off to our salespeople so that they can close deals, and when do we do that handoff, and how do we do that handoff? And so that will be next week. Don't forget your accountability sessions. So a lot of you are doing that, via the phone conference, and that will help you get the most value because, especially today, I apologize. I know it was a big laundry list. I apologize for that, but really what I want to do is get you thinking. That was my job today, was to get you thinking and get your wheels turning, not necessarily to solve any problems. On that call, that's where we can get a little bit more in depth and talk about where would I find a blogger? How would I find a blogger? Who do I choose? How long should they be? What topics should they be? What keywords should I have? That's what those accountability sessions were for. So I strongly encourage everyone to participate in those. As usual, I will stick around for questions afterwards. Thanks for your time and your attention during the call. Hope it's been beneficial, and I'll stick around here for a few minutes for anybody that has questions.
Well, I don't see any questions, Jim.
I got a hand here. Hang on. Doug, did you have a question?
Yes. In the kind of linking of all these elements together, do you do any repetition, or is it the blog really is, I don't know how you get 500 words into a 140 word tweet, for example. I mean, is that you're taking individual tweets out of that thing multiple times out of that one blog?
No, the way that it would work on Twitter, and mine would be pretty easy. Go to the Business Model Institute site, and then go to my Twitter page, and you'll see it. All you do is you link back to your blog.
Okay.
So for instance, all that word twit or whatever, the plugin that I described, all that does is takes the title of the blog, and that better be less than 140 characters, and then it's a shortened link, a bit.ly link, and turns the link into a shortened link that's 10 characters, and then post that as the tweet. So I wrote one on JCPenney's having problems with their new model. Was my last post. And so as soon as I hit post, that plugin automatically sucks out the title, creates that shortened link, it has my password stored, and it goes boom, and it just posts it right to Twitter. So it's just basically the titles of all my blogs is what the 140 characters are.
Excellent.
So that's what most people would do. Same thing with Facebook, but Facebook has a really cool thing where the expert that I hired to help me create the business model site years ago insisted that I have one picture. If you look at all my blogs, they all have one picture, even if I'm scrambling to get anything resembling a related picture, because it does make them look better and it does help. But Facebook will automatically grab a picture that you've got in your blog and paste it, kind of with the highlights as well to make it more enticing. But it's all automatic. You don't need to do anything except set up the plugin.
Now, and what's the plugin for Facebook?
I think the one is called Facebooker, I think. But okay. if you go to WordPress, there's a thing where you can go to plugins and you can search them. But having used them for 5 years, one of the things that I've discovered is sometimes I have ones that I really like, and then I go search, and then they're not on there for some reason, but they're still available and they still work. So that's why I specifically gave you the names of those, because there's multiple ways to get them. You can get them from within your WordPress site when you're logged in, or you can just Google them, and sometimes they're on WordPress's site, WordPress.org, and then sometimes the authors have sites.
Excellent.
Where you can get them and you can download them. It's much easier, though, if you can do it from logged in from your own blog, because they'll install automatically. That's the benefit of doing it when you're logged in.
Thank you.
You bet. Let me open up a couple other mics here and see if anybody has questions. Any other questions, folks?
Close that up.
All right. Well, looks like we don't have any more questions. I'll go ahead and wrap this up and then look for the replay tomorrow. We'll see if I can fight my way through that. I think I finally figured out the secret after it only took 2 of these to get the secret. So thanks again, everybody. I hope you got some benefit from the program.